Well, so today we will talk about protecting communications, and I will launch the 3 questions I told you about right now. So they will appear on your screen, and please help me out to participate and to answer these 3 questions. They're very short. Yeah, the first one is, have you received targeted phishing emails? Yes or no? And the other question is, do you keep copies of your most important files? And then, are you familiar with file encryption? So these are the questions for today's call. All right, great. Cool. All right. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A button on Zoom. Although we are actually monitoring the chat, it's easier for us to follow up on your questions if they are posted on the Q&A section. Okay. All right. There's a question here. How do I sign up for the online security digital course? I believe the URL was shared just right about a minute before the question. Let's see. Okay, I will actually drop the link to the chat. So if you follow that link, you will be able to sign up for the online security course. Yep, great. Okay, nice. Okay, I'm ending the poll and sharing the results. Okay, the answers that I am getting from you are actually giving me feedback about how the progress is going on through the previous webinars. So for instance, on the 3rd question here, are you familiar with file encryption? I believe this increased from the last time. We will check. But okay, so that's it. I am now starting the presentation. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them on the Q&A section of Zoom. Okay, so all right. We will discuss 3 topics today. It's basically all about encryption. Okay, but we will start briefly with a definition of what encryption is, and then what end-to-end encryption means. Then we will go over encrypted emails, and then we will discuss encrypted instant messaging. The following topics have been actually discussed during the previous webinars, but we are going to go a little bit in deep. I mean, not really, because we have time constraints, but we'll talk a little bit more about what this means and why this can be useful for you. Okay, so first of all, what is encryption? Well, as you know, encryption has been used since, I don't know, really, I think the first recorded uses of encryption date back actually centuries ago. Of course, with technology, encryption has become super sophisticated and strong, and it's now using complex mathematical algorithms and cryptography, etc. But to make a long story short, this is what an unencrypted communication looks like. I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. You have on one side Jane, then we have Alex. They are talking about their journalist matters, and then right on top we have a guy with a hat. So this is actually representing maybe a government spy or an enemy, or pretty much any person trying to intercept communications. Could be just a random internet hacker, or it could be actually someone that is targeting a specific person, or human rights defender, activist, or and whatnot. Then when the flow of communication is going on encrypted, it can be actually read or heard by anyone with the right tools or with the right knowledge. So what we want to do is actually protect this communication from prying eyes, and this will have an effect on of course on our security, but also on the trust that sources provide to us. If we are actually talking to them via encrypted channels, they will feel comfortable, they will trust us more. This will also boost our reputation. If we are using encryption, this speaks a lot about the security practices we have, etc. So basically, to oversimplify how encryption works, Jane and Alex agree on a secret rule to code their messages. Of course, the rule is only known to them, so no one else can understand what they're saying or what they are typing to each other. This secret rule will apply to text and also to verbal communication. So the rule they have agreed to, it's just to select the position on the alphabet that is three positions ahead. So for instance, if they want to select the letter, to type or communicate with the letter A, they will just add 3 positions and they will select the letter D. So following this rule, hello becomes this word right here. Of course, if you are a third-party person, if you are not Jane or Alex, and you intercept this email or hear a phone call, you'll only read or hear this word core, which makes no sense whatsoever. So of course, encryption works far more complicated than this. This is just an oversimplification of how this works. Just so you can have just a basic idea of what encryption means. All right, so when we have encrypted communication and the messages go back and forth, this is what it looks like from the outside. So let's say we have this little spy guy right here. He's actually reading the messages coming from Alex and Jane, and all he sees is just nonsense, just an array of unorganized text and characters. He really has no way to understand what they are saying, and this will be super useful if Jane and Alex are talking about an unreleased investigation. Maybe this is a corruption case involving government officials, maybe, or maybe they are communicating. I don't know. Maybe let's say journalists right now in Ukraine are actually maybe I don't know, reporting what they see. They don't want to be harassed by Russians. They use encryption to secure their communications. And you know what? Actually, talking about Russia and Ukraine, Russian soldiers have been using unencrypted communication channels. So this way, Ukraine forces have been able to tell what their moves are, where they are, how many of them are on the ground, what type of weapons they have, etc., what their plans are, names, etc. So the encryption is of course useful for journalists and human rights defenders, but also if you are a state, if you have your armed forces, you'll always want to secure communications from unauthorized prying eyes. I think we have a question over. Okay. There. And so that was encryption. So now we will speak about what end-to-end encryption means, because not all encryption, it's actually end-to-end encryption. And this is actually super important. So basically, what this means is that the data or the information is encoded before leaving the origin, and it's decoded only after it reaches its destination. This is super critical because the data never travels unprotected and also never remains unprotected. For instance, if you are a regular Gmail user, although the emails back and forth are encrypted using just a different technology, this is not really what we actually call end-to-end encryption. And also this kind of protection depends on the other party. If the other party is using Gmail, then that's okay. This works much better. But if the person you are sending emails to, if that other person is using a different service and that different service is not properly set up or etc., then the exchange is actually not that secure. And also, while your emails are sitting on major email providers, that data is actually unencrypted, so they can be subject to have maybe a court order, a court order being sent to the provider, and then maybe they might be forced to comply because that's the local law, etc. So if you are using end-to-end encryption, the data never sits unprotected. Like you have to actually proactively unlock the data so your information can be read by yourself and not by anyone else. So when end-to-end encryption is working, the sender and the recipient own the keys to decode the message. This means they know what the secret is to code the communications, and only they know what the key is to decode the message. So this means that the provider doesn't know what the secret is to be able to read the messages. So that's okay. So that's what this means. And also, when we are talking about end-to-end encryption, the medium used to transmit the messages ignores both the key and its content. So the medium is, of course, the app or the protocol you're using or service provider. They ignore the contents of your communications, and they don't have the keys to your secret. So this is what end-to-end encryption looks like. So when you hear about your communications are encrypted, the first question you have to ask yourself is this end-to-end encrypted? If the answer is yes, then you are you can actually you have an additional reason to trust the product. Also, we have and this is very interesting. We actually had a comment some minutes ago in the chat. A participant wants to have a take on an application that we will actually talk about at the end. And end-to-end encryption that it's embedded into communication solutions can have its code public, or it can be just kept private. This means if the code that makes all of this encryption works is shared and it's available to the public, then you are more likely to trust the service because anyone can actually review the code and anyone can see if the code is actually doing what they are saying that the code does. So when it comes to picking up a provider, if they share how their service works, if they share the computer code, the programming code that makes everything work together, then you can actually say with a high level of confidence that service is trustworthy. All right, so some considerations about encryption. Of course, not all encryption systems are created equal. This is basically what I told you about the code being shared or not, the technology it uses, the level of encryption, like the cryptographic standard of encryption. It's different between providers. Some of them are using harder to crack keys, higher bits, basically. Some encryption systems are only used to protect data while it's at rest. This means only protecting data while it sits unused, not when it's traveling back and forth between computers or persons. Some other encryption only protects data in transit. So we have different technologies for different cases. Some encryption systems actually do both. They protect data when it's just sitting on a computer or on a mailbox or on a cloud storage, and some other systems also actually protect data while it's traveling back and forth. Some other encryption systems decode or decrypt data on the end user's device, like on the browser or in the computer. And some other services decrypt the information just right before delivering this information to the user. Of course, this may be more convenient, but it's actually, I think, better if the decryption occurs in your own device. So also, the creator of the encryption keys really owns the message. This means if you create your own encryption keys, it's much, much better than having a program create the keys for you. We will actually talk more about this, not on the Wix webinar, but the following, after the next. Then another consideration, jurisdiction matters, and it matters a lot, because as I said, some providers might be forced to comply to court orders and just give out information about users. This can be IP address where they connected or where they use the service from, maybe the devices, device IDs or whatnot, or physical location, etc. And we have to say some providers actually mislead users about having end-to-end encryption, or to use vague language. So we really have to be somewhat skeptical and just try to find out more about a specific program or solution before trusting or data to a new app or a new software that is available. And also, well, as I said, if the applications are open source, this means if the code is shared globally and is available to anyone, then that, of course, enables transparency, and that's actually much, much better. All right, so these are examples of end-to-end encryption encrypted services. Of course, we have instant messaging apps with built-in end-to-end encryption. As you know, we have WhatsApp and Signal, which, by the way, share the same encryption protocol. So if you are concerned about WhatsApp being owned by Facebook, just keep in mind that it's as secure as Signal, because the iners of the program are actually the same. The core of the encryption is shared between WhatsApp and Signal. Of course, they do have some other technical differences, but at the end, they pretty much work the same. We have, of course, Facebook Messenger, which does have built-in encryption, but it's actually optional. So if you are messaging someone on Facebook, the message is not end-to-end encrypted unless you opt in for the end-to-end encryption. For email, we have two providers that have emails with built-in encryption. We have ProtonMail, and we have Tutanota, and we also have a way to add encryption on top of an existing email service. We will talk about this later on. And of course, we have encrypted, end-to-end encrypted cloud backup solutions. We have Treasury, we have Proton Drive, which is still in a beta phase. This means the product is not yet completely ready for public consumption, but you can actually use it if you sign up for a ProtonMail address. You automatically have access to Proton Drive in most markets. I'm not sure if that is worldwide, but in most markets, you do have access to Proton Drive. So that's cool. Yes, we will also talk about Cipher Chat at the end of the call. Actually, I just, before kicking off with the presentation, I took a quick look to Cipher Chat. Looks okay, but more on that in just a couple of minutes. Then we have encrypted emails. ProtonMail has built-in end-to-end encryption, and what I like a lot about ProtonMail is that not only offers the end-to-end encryption is known for, but it also gives you the ability to download the encryption keys so you can use them elsewhere on a different program. This works with an open standard. So if you have ProtonMail and you want to complicate yourself creating your PGP keys, you can just sign up for ProtonMail, and then you go to security and you can download your keys. And then maybe if you start digging a little bit more about encryption programs, now you have your own set of keys already created, and you can actually use them in a different program. So I like ProtonMail a lot, and they also have a mobile app, so your emails can be sent back and forth with built-in encryption from your computer or your mobile phone. So that's cool. They are also based in Switzerland. They have strong privacy laws, so they don't actually have like so much information to give out, even if they are required. Of course, it's always better to use ProtonMail with VPN. That way, you're not even running the slimest chance to give out your IP address, not even to a secure company like this. This service is free, although they do have a paid subscription that it's more targeted to companies. Like you can have your own domain name working with ProtonMail. So let's say if you have a newspaper or a magazine, you can actually opt in for the paid ProtonMail services, and you have, let's say, your organization's email protected with this high grade of encryption. You also have the option to use Tutanota. This is a service that is similar to ProtonMail. You can actually sign up for free, or you can also have like a business plan. But both of these services are trustworthy. With ProtonMail, you can actually import your emails from, let's say that you are using right now Gmail or Outlook or Yahoo, etc. You can actually migrate all of your emails into ProtonMail, so you can still have a copy of all the conversations that you have been engaging with, and then you can just start using ProtonMail, and you won't have to go back to your old email addresses, to your old email mailbox to see what was going on. You can just have a historic archive of your emails right into ProtonMail, so that's cool. Because a lot of folks are like, some people, including me, maybe sometimes like we resist to change, even if we are doing it unconsciously. Like we are so used to work with the same tools for the years. So when this comes as an option, we are actually like doubtful or hesitant to migrate to this kind of solutions, because it implies like started from scratch, like starting with a clean mailbox with nothing, with no historic records. But if you have actually the ability to import your emails, then there's actually there's no other reason that might stop you from migrating to a more secure solution. So that's it. If you don't want to change the email address that you currently have, if you are very used to work on Gmail or in Yahoo or Outlook, you can actually add EndtoEnd encryption externally with an app from the web store. This works for Chrome, for Firefox, for Edge, and of course this can work on both Mac, Windows, and Linux. So no matter what operating system you have, you can actually add encryption, EndtoEnd encryption email under existing mailbox. Of course, this will keep the functionality of your mailbox. I mean, you can still send unencrypted emails, but now when you install MailBlob and when you sync it with your email account, you have like two like two buttons to create new emails. So like one is just for the regular emails, and then the other one is for encrypted emails. Of course, as I said, the other party must be using the same encryption system, because as I said before, like the two parties have to agree on a secret to change messages, and of course that secret is, or I mean, this secret is composed of the set of encryption keys. If this sounds like weird, or if further explanation is needed for how this works, just make sure to be on the next webinar and the webinar following that one, because we will actually do a deep dive on how this works. But basically, this is just to let you know that you can actually add encryption to your existing mailbox. Now, the only con or drawback that I see is that if you install MailBlob on your Gmail account, you can actually use encryption on your computer, but if you open your mailbox on your phone, on your cell phone, all the emails are unreadable because MailBlob it's not installed on your phone. And right now, this is just an app that works on your browser. So like, there's no way to read the encrypted emails using MailBlob on your phone. So keep that in mind. This might be a good reason for you guys to incline for other services with built-in encryption, such as ProtonMail, which does have a mobile app. And then when it comes to encrypted instant messaging, of course, we have WhatsApp Signal, Facebook, the encryption is optional. On Instagram, the encryption is available in certain markets. It's not yet available worldwide. And they are slowly allowing users to use end-to-end encryption. I know this Instagram is not used as a messaging platform, or actually it's not intended to be used that way. I mean, you can still communicate with on Instagram, but maybe not for super sensitive topics, but you can still do it. Then Briar, we actually spoke about this tool some days ago. With Briar, you can actually exchange end-to-end encrypted messages, even if there's no internet access, because Briar works over Bluetooth. So let's say if you are covering a dangerous assignment in the field with some of your colleagues, and the internet is cut on purpose by the government or by accident, or if there is an electrical blackout of some sort, you can still exchange messages offline with Briar. So that's pretty cool. And also the messages travel through the Tor network when the device recovers connectivity. So if you, by some reason, if you were unable to receive the message from your colleague, then once you have internet access, and of course the other party is not within Bluetooth range anymore, the message will still travel securely to your device. So you have these options right here. Of course, there are more. There's Telegram, there's Signal, there's Line. But I always like stick with WhatsApp or Signal because the way they work, and Signal especially because they share part of their code. So that makes them trustworthy in my eyes, and also the security community agrees with this assessment. The people behind Signal are trustworthy individuals. And for instance, Telegram does not have end-to-end encryption by default. Like, you have to enable it on secret chats. And also the owners of the program, like the code, the computer code behind the app, has not been yet released to the public. So we don't know how Telegram works. Then before going to answer some questions, I'd like to share a quick overview about Cipher Chat. A participant asked about it, so I'm I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will share another window I have with this program. Okay, so this is the app this attendee wishes me to talk about. To be completely transparent, this is the first time I hear about Cipher Chat. So like, I'm not really going to give you a full opinion until I really take a deep dive into it. But what I can tell is that they say they offer end-to-end encryption. So that's cool. That's a nice feature. And then when you sign up for the service, you don't have to provide your name or any personal information. That's also okay. So if you want to join, apparently it only requires you to select a username, which is cool because you're not giving out your phone number for verification. You're not giving out your email address or any other data but yourself. So that's actually a good starting point. Again, when you download Signal or WhatsApp and even Telegram, you do have to provide your phone number. So if you want to be completely anonymous, maybe this could be an option. The only thing that I see is that I believe they don't have an app. It seems like this is working only on the browser. I don't know. So maybe in the future it might be worth a shot. But I think we'll have to wait until they have an app for both stores, for the Apple and for the Android store. But I mean, it looks okay. They also have a GitHub page where they share the code for. This is actually what I told you about some minutes ago. This is a computer code, or at least part of the computer code that is behind the program. So here we have some decipher routines and some encryption routines. Like, this is what enables transparency, to have programmers and some other experts look at how the program works and give feedback. So this is useful because maybe someone can actually find a security hole. So I can say, oh, you know what, right here, you are not using the AES technology correctly. Maybe you are, I don't know, like, this is just tech stuff, but you can actually review the code and tell the programmer or the owner, oh, you know what, maybe I think you can do this better. Why don't you do it this way? Or, hey, I have I have some code that might be useful for your app. So this enables transparency, this enables teamwork, and also I mean, by sharing code, you can actually make sure that the program is doing what it's supposed to do and not anything else. So that's cool. So they do have this Cipher Chat profile, although they don't have a lot going on. The last time the code was updated was 13 months ago. So it doesn't look like it's an active project. I don't know, maybe they ran out of funds or whatever. We will have to check who is behind this program and why it hasn't been updated in 13 months. What was updated recently, just the README, which is basically a description of the program. So maybe it's a good idea, but most likely it requires a little bit more of work, mainly because the app hasn't been updated in more than a year. So that's my take. So I hope it was useful for you. We still have around maybe like 10 minutes. If you would like to share questions or any other experience, you can actually use the chat, or if you have a question, you can post it on the Q&A section. Oh, okay, I have a comment here. This is not our GitHub. Oh, you know what? Good to know. If could you please provide the GitHub on the chat? Type in process. Thank you. Okay, so this is not your GitHub. All right, so this was a very important question that I had the ability to answer. And you know what? If I, by some reason, landed on the wrong GitHub, Cipher, let me see, Cipher Chat. Okay, this is important. Why is there another GitHub with similar name? Seems a little bit odd. Okay, IP process, thank you. All right, if you can share the actual GitHub page, that'll be wonderful. Good. Okay. Okay, so there's coming here. Cipher Chat has a PWA app you can try that is basically like a native Android app. Good to know. Okay, or GitHub is not made public yet. All right. Okay, that's cool. So it's a work in progress, basically. Okay, great. There's another question here. I am using RiseUp email. How secure is RiseUp? Let's take a look. To be honest with you, this is the first time I also learned about RiseUp. And guys, you have to keep in mind there are a lot of tools, and unfortunately, there's a lot of guys. There's a big community behind secure communication solutions. I'm glad that everyone has more options to pick from. Like every time you are offered a solution, you have to do your due diligence and investigate a little bit who is behind apps, what their credentials are, how this works, if they have white papers or not about how their system works, etc. You also have to look at documentation. You also have to look at where they are physically registered. You know, as I said, jurisdiction matters, and also keep in mind that there are apps that are released by state authorities. Some of them are not giving out clues that the government is behind. So you have to be really careful when selecting new apps. Just make sure to investigate a little bit about how stuff works. All right. I will actually take a deep dive when you release your GitHub page. I hope I have something useful to comment. If not, maybe I can try the app for myself. Why not? All right. Do you guys have any other comments, or maybe I can quickly show to you how Mail works? Maybe that could be useful for you, because it's a topic that requires, of course, more than an hour. Maybe we might not be able to cover it during the next webinar, so maybe you can use this time to talk about it a little bit. Or if you have, or if for Elise or Elizabeth, you have some comments or questions, like, feel free, welcome.
Hi, Jose Garcia, thank you. Just a brief question related to all of these tools, right? Many places I just mentioned, many regions, there are different tools that are being kind of every month there is something different. I remember when trying to set up a communications platform for journalists doing investigations, we were obviously trying to do our own platform. And one of the things that came up was that in order for that platform to be trusted, it had to be open source, and that the open source needs to wade in and kind of test any communication tool. Would you say that one of the criteria you would consider whether or not to use any of these tools has to be that it has to be an open source tool?
I don't think it has to be open source, because I mean, it's your work out there exposed to anyone that might just be a copycat and build upon your work and your hard time efforts. But it does it does offer, it does enable transparency. And you know, there's a huge community of technologists and people that is working and that is promoting freedom of speech and secure solutions. If you open yourself with open source, you are actually maybe creating more opportunities than disadvantages, because you can actually attract comments from experts. And maybe let's say if you are not releasing your code to the public, maybe you're missing out on a good feedback. As I said, fortunately, there's a lot of people working on privacy, security, and so on. And believe it or not, like every time you attend to a convention or to a meet, well, I mean, the pandemic has lasted like more than 2 years, but before that, when they were like meetups or maybe a small congress, like you get to know such talented people, and maybe they're working on a solution similar to yours, and maybe you can cooperate, etc. I think it opens a lot of good opportunities to have a solution on the open source side.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
I have another question. Maybe also Jorge Luis can weigh in, because it's really related to how you deal and address the sources of information, right? As a journalist or as a human rights defender working on a research project, how would you go about introducing encrypted communications to your sources? Because some of them might be using something totally different. Would you tell them, I would prefer to use this tool and then share it with them? Or would you be open for any of the communication tools that any of the sources that you're trying to pursue the information from is using?
Well, you know what? I think I will stick with like the easier the better. Like if you try to have a person that is not so technologically inclined to create PGP keys and then to install this program and do this or that, maybe they can do it if you guide them, but it's a whole different story when it comes to really actually creating a habit out of that. So maybe they can do it for 1 or 2 times just for you, but at the end of the day, when they communicate sensitive information with others that are not that picky, maybe they are not gonna use secure channels, and maybe somehow the level of trust that you think you have can be compromised if the other person starts to lower their security standards. So I think you have to stick with an easy solution. Regarding that, what I like a lot about Mailblob, it's that actually it's just very easy to use. I mean, really, like when you are creating your own set of keys, it's really just like putting your email, your name, your password, like, and clicking OK. That's pretty much about it. And then just adding Mailblob to Gmail, just about like giving permissions, like the same way you install an app on your phone and you give it permissions to use your camera application or whatever. Like users are actually used to give out permissions to apps. And once you have this working out, you can actually tell other guys to do the same. Trust me, it won't take much for them to actually use the app. And I mean, the button to send encrypted emails is just like 1 inch away from the other button. It's red, so it sticks out, and like they don't really have to be concerned about where they are keeping the private key, etc. This can work easily for any person, and it doesn't even matter if they have a high-end device or not, because you know, when it comes to technology, like the more you pay, the more you have. You know, if you have a high-end phone, maybe you have 3D fingerprint scanner. If you have a high-end phone, you have a 3D face scanner. If you have a low and a cheap phone, the face the face unlock can be tricked by a photo or a video. So this actually works for everyone and it's free. So, and everyone uses Gmail, Outlook, or Yahoo. Like they have a huge market share.
Yeah.
So you can actually encourage people to use this. Of course, it's always better to use a more sophisticated solution, but you have to keep your expectations real.
Yeah.
And I think this is fair.
Yeah. I think this is like
what I don't like is this is not available on phones.
See you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jorge Sebastian.